All right, fifth grade. Happy Monday. Hope everybody had a really good weekend. Today what we're going to do is we are going to start writing our rough draft for our narrative essay. That's what we've been talking about for the last week. Today we will start a rough draft, but it's going to be a little bit different than what you would think we would start. We're going to spend all of today just talking about the first sentence. Okay, I know that seems very tedious. It seems like we're spending too much time on one thing, but that first sentence is so important. Okay, so the first sentence of your essay is going to be called the hook. Okay, and the reason why it's called a hook, if you think about something that you fish with, right? You fish with a fishing rod, right? But the fishing rod isn't enough to catch a fish, right? What do you need on the end of your fishing rod? Well, you need string, or fishing line is what they call it, right? Those two things are not enough to catch a fish. What you really need is you need a hook at the end, right? That hook, this little hook here, that is what is going to catch a fish. That is what is going to, sadly, poke into a fish's mouth so that you catch the fish. All right, so in our essays, we need something at the very beginning of our essay that is going to act like a hook. Okay? Think of the people that are reading your essay as the fishes, right? We want to be able to hook in those fishes, those audience members, people that are reading your essay, and we're going to want to make them keep on reading. Okay? So, first, let's get into it. Everything that I write down today, I want you to write down. On the last slide, we're actually going to create a hook for your own essay. Okay? So, first, what is a hook? Here we go. A hook is, like I said, the first sentence of your essay. Okay? That is true. It's the first sentence of your essay. Okay? The first sentence of the essay that we'll be writing. But more importantly than just being the first sentence of your essay, what a hook is, I know that sentence is a little bit long. If you need to pause right now, you can. But more importantly, what the hook is, it is that sentence that is going to make the person reading your essay want to read more. All right, by making it more intense, making it more interesting. I'm going to go through a few examples here on the next slide, but a hook is going to be something that you read that first sentence and you're like, oh my goodness, I need to know what happens for the rest of this essay. Okay? Think about it for reading a book, right? If you think about a hook for Holes, they start talking about Camp Green Lake right away, talking about yellow spotted lizards, how dangerous it is, all these things. That immediately makes everybody want to read and continue to see what happens with Camp Green Lake. What happens with the yellow spotted lizards out in the desert. Okay? That is the hook. Little did you guys know, you got hooked into reading Holes. Okay? So how do we know that a hook is good? A hook is good if you want to keep on reading. Okay? So after that first sentence, if you feel like this seems really interesting, I want to keep on reading, I want to see what happens, then it's a good hook. All right. If it's a sentence where you read it and you're kind of like, I don't know, kind of boring, then it's probably not a very good hook. Okay. So remember, we are trying to hook in our audience, our readers, and we are trying to really get them to want to continue reading our essays. Okay. All right, here we go. So I have a few different common types of hooks over here. The different kinds of hooks, there's 4 of them, we'll talk about them, and then I'm going to show you an example of each one. So first, the first kind of hook that we're going to see, I should write this down, is a character or a setting description. Okay, so right away in an essay, the author might tell you more about one character or about the setting, right? So where the story takes place. In Holes, this is what they did. In the first part of the book, the first thing they tell you the setting. They tell you all about Camp Green Lake, what it's like, why it's so dangerous, why it's scary, and then they stop. And you're like, wait a second. I want to know more. Tell me more about the story. Tell me more about Camp Green Lake. Tell me more about setting. All right, so that is an option right there. And I'll read you an example here from the student's work. Here is an example of a description of a setting. Okay, so this was a story that a student wrote about seeing a big fish out on the lake. This is their first sentence of their essay. There I was, on the crystal clear lake, all alone, scared. Okay, if you read this sentence for the first part and you don't know what it's about, right? So obviously we know that it's about a big fish. But if we didn't know that, we would need to read more, right? What's going to happen? They're out on this lake by themselves. They're alone. They're scared. What's going to happen? Right? This is a really good hook. Right? The student did a great job. Right? They described the setting that they were at. They were describing the lake. Okay. All right. Here we go. Then the next one, another option here, is an action or an intense moment. Okay, so if you think about the story that you picked, the memory that you picked, think about this very intense moment to kind of get the reader to think, wow, what's going on? Hold on a second. Okay, so one student wrote a story about riding a scary ride for the first time, and their hook was, the roller coaster was going so fast, I didn't know if I would survive. That's how they started their essay, right? So that's a little bit scary to think, wow, is the author going to even survive? Right? So that was a really good hook as well. So this was the first sentence of their essay. It got us thinking like, oh my gosh, I have to read more. I have to see if they're okay and if they survive. Okay. All right, number 3, another option is dialogue. And dialogue is kind of a fancy word for just talking in a story. Okay, so talking. So the characters that are in your story might have said something that kind of would make the reader want to see what's going on, want to read more to see what's happening. Okay, here is an example from a student, a narrative about going on a cool trip. They were going on a vacation, and here's the first sentence that they used. Here was their hook that wanted to make the reader read more. We thought we would do something different for your birthday, said Mom with a grin. All right, so the student got a birthday present, and the mom said, we thought we would do something different for your birthday. So right here in quotes, this is the dialogue. This is what the mom said, right? And this makes us think, wow, a birthday present that's a little bit different. I want to read more, and I want to see what the birthday gift is going to be. Right? This is a really good hook as well. Okay, and then last one, sound words. Okay, we call these onomatopoeias. An onomatopoeia is a word that sounds like the way that it looks, okay, or the way that we read it, right? And so here is the example that a student used about winning a big race that they're running in. Okay, bang! The gun fired into the air, and I knew the race had begun. All right, so starting off this essay here, this narrative essay, with a bang, literally saying bang, that makes the reader go, whoa, holy cow. Right? It kind of wakens up the reader to say, bang, look what's going on. The gun fired in the air and I knew the race had begun. All right? It makes the reader want to read more because it's very high energy. It feels like they're there, right? You can hear a gun shooting in the air and the race had begun. Okay? So here are 4 common types of hooks. There are many, many, many more, but we're going to focus on 4. Okay? So make sure you have these written down. And then, last slide for today. You are going to pick which one of these 4 you want to do for your narrative essay. Okay? So, you can do a character or setting description, right? Telling us more about a character in your story or about where the story took place. You could throw us right into the very intense moment of your story. Okay? You could use dialogue, some talking in your story. A character might be saying something in your story. Or you could use sound words like bang, boom, pow, right? That kind of wakens up the the audience to what's going on in your story. Okay? When you choose which one of these four you want to do, you're going to take this circle. You can put it around. If you want to do a character or a setting description, do that one. Okay, if you want to do an action or an intense moment, number 2. Number 3 is dialogue or talking. Number 4, sound words like bang, boom, pow. Okay, I'm going to do dialogue for my narrative that I chose for my grandma passing away. Now, I don't want you to choose 3 just because I did. Okay, if you think number 1 would be better for your story, number 2 or number 4 would be better, then use those. Okay, not very many people wrote about when their grandma passed away in 5th grade. That's my story. Okay, so your hook might be different than mine. You might have one that works better. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to make our hook. Remember, the hook is the first sentence of your entire essay. So right now what we are going to do is we are going to write our first sentence of our essay. And I chose dialogue, so I'm going to do quotes. Do you know what? I'm actually going to go back and I'm going to redo this. That is not a very good hook. I'm trying to think back to exactly what she said. Here's what she said first. So, hey Jack, I have something to tell you and your cousins, said Mom. Alright, now the reason why I chose this as my hook is, first of all, this is what was said first, right? The reason why this is a pretty good hook here is because, as the reader, you're going to say, huh, interesting. I wonder what his mom had to tell him and his cousins. It must be important, right? If it's the first part of this essay here, right? It seems like anytime that somebody says to you, I have something to tell you, all of a sudden your heartbeat goes a little bit faster, right? Because you want to know so bad what they want to say. So this is why I chose this hook here. I chose dialogue, some talking. So there is my hook. This will be my first sentence of my narrative essay. Okay, here's my hook. All right. Remember, 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. every day I am available. I can help you with this if you need any help. Remember that this is one of the 3 very big essays that we're doing this year, and this is the first sentence, so it's very important. So do not feel worried or anxious to come and get help. I am always available for it. Come at 10:05 to 11, and I am there. Okay, this is very important, and I want to make sure that everybody gets the help that they need. Okay, if you have any questions, please let me know.